Welcome to the past, where you'll get information related to sports, video games, technology, music, and our all-time favorite ass of the week. What is up? What is good? Episode 195 of The Past is here. I'm your host, BT. I'm not going to hold any punches today. I'm going to warn you all that this will be a very wordy but content-based episode for what we have to talk about. I'm glad I did hold off a day because a big story broke. If you're reading the title, you kind of can put two and two together, but we're not going to waste a lot of time. I'm going to save that as kind of lead into it, because that's going to kind of be like a partial of our intro. So before I do that, as I always share each week, we are still doing the angel numbers, and since it is episode 195, we'll go ahead and talk about angel number 195. The number 195 is a message from the angels that keep you safe. They are concerned about your life. They are concerned about your journey and want you to make it through your journey of success. If the angel number 195 is appearing before you a lot in the recent past, you might want to consider looking deep within you to find out what your divine angels are trying to tell you. Use your instincts and intuition to understand what your real mission is in life. The angel number 195 is telling you that you deserve to serve your life's purpose. If you remain hopeful and positive for a bright future, you will succeed. Remember to share good love compatibility with your loved ones. They will offer you the support you need as you support their dreams. The angel number 195 that you keep seeing has a meaning that will influence you in your life and in your journey as well. Number 1 is the first number of the series. It stands for victory and triumph. It is the number of winners who conquer different challenges. The number also symbolizes fresh start and new beginnings for you. 1 is an opportunity that has presented itself before you to change your current situation. You have to want it, you have to desire this journey, and feel obligated to see it through. Number 9 is the number that symbolizes your empathetic side. Can't even read this morning. It shows the side in you that is selfless and caring for other people. What the number 1 shows is new beginnings. While the number 1 shows new beginnings, the number 9 symbolizes the end of certain stages in your life. This is to emphasize the fact that the number 1 shows the beginning of the new things for you. These affirmations are from your angel numbers to confirm to you that change is coming your way and that you need to be ready to adapt and let it transform you. Number 5 is part of the angel number 195 to remind you that you are going to go through promotions and progress individuality. You will experience more personal freedom. You will be able to make more independent decisions. Angel number 195 shows that for you to grow, you need to be decisive enough to let go of all negative influence. You need to identify the aspects of your life that deter your growth and focus on what allows you to move forward. All right, I'm going to turn off the tablet for a second because it's kind of ironic that this is what our angel number is this week. I can't speak for anyone else, but for me, and I'm going to go ahead and talk about this. Y'all know anytime I come on the mic and talk about stuff, I just talk about where I'm at and how I feel. This year or this process with all that's been going on, I've been giving you all good content and recording and pushing my best, putting my best foot forward as you're supposed to. But I also noticed that I've been a little unwilling to challenge the process. All right. I'm not saying this to look for any pity or any sorrow from you all, because you're here to get a show, and I'm here to give you a show. I will say when it comes to recording, I'm on the mic and I'm ready to go. It's the 6.5 or 6 and 3/4 days outside of the show that more has to be produced. And someone posted a status, the Purple Sharpie, if you're listening, I'll put her information in the show notes as well. Um, she was able to kind of write something to give a little insight as far as extra posts and extra pieces of information don't hurt, or going that extra mile doesn't hurt. I know lately I've been carrying business cards. Couldn't tell you the last time I gave one out. Can't tell you the last time I've said anywhere to just kind of let people know what I'm doing. Um, I don't want it to be used as an excuse or me blowing off steam like, hey, woe is me, but it's just observing the obvious. And I just wanted to state that kind of from my personal vending and just letting y'all know it's not just me saying do better tomorrow or that I'm going to try to work on things, but I really want to give y'all great content on the show, off the show, offline, in general, where's and know-hows of just not just everyday people who are already supporting the show, but that other 2% of those who are listening to other podcasters talk about what I talk about and just coming from a different perspective. So I wanted to get into that to add to what was already addressed. Next thing we're going to talk about. So I know I always give like the businesses and promotions. I'm going to rest that for this week because it's not that I don't have time to do it. I just want to, this week I'm really focused on what has happened in sports or in tech or in just the media as a whole. I want to tell you all that soccer is getting good. When we last were, as you all know, diehard, keeping up with the World Cup. There was a lot of action yesterday. I'll get into those games in a moment, but I'm going to kind of push back, but come forward with what has happened up until now. So there was a possibility that Argentina may not have been able to make it. Luckily, they did. They were able to get out of Group D. They kind of needed a little bit of help. Things worked out in their favor, though, so they made it through. So it was Argentina and Croatia from Group D. Group E was Brazil and Switzerland. Well, to kind of go over, I'll go over all the groups and then we'll break it all down. So Group A was Uruguay and Russia. Group B was Spain and Portugal. Spain and Portugal had pretty much the best run. Group C was France and Denmark. France looked pretty good. I think they had one game that was a draw against, let's see. No, I'm seeing it, but I can't. France and Denmark drew 0-0 on their last match, but for the most part, they won their other two games. Croatia was one of the few teams that actually went undefeated. So they won. It was Croatia and Argentina. Group E was Brazil and Switzerland. Group F was Sweden and Mexico, which in hindsight knocked Germany out. So Germany, who was the defending World Cup champs from 2014, they were no longer in it. Group G was Belgium and England. Belgium was another team that won all three of their games. And finally, Colombia and Japan were able to get through their portion. It was kind of a close numerical placement as far as who was going to get through, because Senegal and Japan had similar records, but it was the tiebreaker. Their goals, like their wins, losses, goals for, goals against, were similar. Their points, amount of points they had earned through the group, were the same. So then the next factor would be anyone who had gotten fouls or ejections, and I think Senegal had more. So that was what gave Japan the edge. For the sake of the bracket that I'm using, I had to kind of manipulate it because initially it had Senegal as if they went through, and I was like, no, I need to fix it. So I was able to utilize the resources to get that done. So then we push forward to the knockout stage, which in the knockout stage, you basically have 16 teams. Those 16 teams are competing against, like one team is competing against another based on pools and groups. And then that whoever wins that match, they're in the quarterfinals. So yesterday, well, before we go to Sunday, let's go to Saturday. Saturday was big because France and Argentina played, and Mbappe was the main guy. He was able to kind of get France over the hump, which knocked Argentina out. I'm gonna say something, and anyone that's a Lionel Messi fan, do not take this the wrong way. Messi can't do it by himself. Messi is a good player when he's with Barcelona because Barcelona has good tools and resources on that team, i.e., Luis Suarez, Iniesta. When he was there, Neymar. You had other players around Messi to kind of balance the weight and balance the load off of him. Argentina is mainly him. So Argentina was eliminated. Portugal and Uruguay played, and Uruguay won 2-1, which knocked Portugal out, which meant Ronaldo was knocked out. So on the first day of knockout stages or knockout matches, you have two of the best players both knocked off in the same day. Then yesterday, one of the heavily touted favorites, Spain was able to get knocked off by Russia. The score was initially 1-1 in regular time. It went into overtime. During the overtime, neither team was able to really get a score, which led to penalties. Russia ended up winning on penalties 4-3. Then you had Croatia and Denmark, which was, to me, out of all the games, I think this might be the craziest one. And here's why I say that. The game started. Croatia got a goal probably 2 minutes in. Denmark turned around and scored right after them, like in the 4th minute. So you had those goals happen that fast, and after that, nobody could score. The game then went on and led to penalties. Croatia did end up winning on penalties, so Croatia moved forward. Today, actually right now, Brazil is playing Mexico, and Brazil is ahead 1-0. Neymar did score in the first half. Later on today, Belgium will be playing Japan, and it's actually at 2:00 Eastern time. So it'll be two. The podcast will probably be up by then. And the game may be over, but it'll be later on today that Belgium and Japan are playing against each other. So that's kind of your World Cup update. And I was able to get a little bit of knowledge before I continue because I want to address this. I didn't know that there was a conflict between Fox and ESPN as far as showing news or footage or highlights. So Fox don't come for me. I just give information, and I'm mainly pulling from the sites that are online. So that just to kind of clear that error and not be called out for any problems. So I'm going to go ahead and get the elephant out of the room first and foremost. A lot of people said they saw this coming. Those who did, cool. Those who did not, you shouldn't have been surprised. LeBron is so to give. I guess I'm giving the full story, but I guess I should get a backstory. As we know, Cleveland played against Golden State. They got swept. He suddenly had an issue with his hand. I don't think there was nothing wrong with his hand anyway. The conversation then comes up: where will LeBron be playing next year? Stories came, rumors presented themselves. Gary Payton kind of leaked the story or leaked information saying that his son would be applying to Sierra Canyon, which is in California. That was the first red flag for me. But then on top of that, he was very quiet about how he wanted to do this, have this plan happen. He didn't meet with, if like, to make everyone clear, he never met with LA. Last a couple days ago, he took took a flight to LA with his family. Everybody spoke to him, whatever, whatever. But there was nothing actually discussed regarding the Lakers. Uh, so Philadelphia reached out to him. His team talked to Philadelphia. He didn't talk to Philadelphia. And not too long after the announcement was made that he was getting 4 years, I didn't want to give the wrong amount. I believe it was 4 years, 137. 4 year, 154. I'm sorry, 154. 137, I believe, was for Paul George. So the story now, so the story broke. It's one thing that I want to mention before I forget, because it was very key to this conversation. LeBron. Oh, okay, I got it. LA was not going to do a lot of conversation about this story, and I'm going to explain why. If you really go back and look at LA's history, at least in the last year or so, LA learned from its mistakes. That's why they didn't sign Paul George. If you all remember last year, Paul George was supposed to possibly go to the Lakers. I believe it was going to, at that time, I think it was a sign and trade. But the trade never happened. He ended up going to Oklahoma City. And then to fast forward now, he ended up re-signing with Oklahoma City through a party that I'll present in a moment. LA made no conversation this year because last year Magic was on record during a TV show, I can't remember offhand, where he was talking with the host, and he talked about, well, yeah, if we talk to someone like Paul George and threw a wink in, which the NBA looked at as potentially as tampering. And if I'm remembering the story correctly, Indiana filed the suit and LA got fined. LA got fined, I think, $500,000. To an everyday person on the street, they like, man, they got hit. Yeah, they got hit, but it was a bit of a slap on the wrist. But it was also a way of teaching them a lesson to say, look, don't do anything stupid, because you could risk upcoming drafts or possibilities with the draft. So this year, they didn't talk much about the LeBron story. Now, LA is in talks right now with San Antonio. If you all remember, I did talk about this with Kawhi Leonard. He wants out of San Antonio. San Antonio is not really willing to pull the trigger on an LA deal because they don't want to trade him to a Western team. The other side of it that's a battle is LA really don't, to give away a player or to trade a player who's one of the top 20 to 30 players in the NBA, and you won't really get much back for him, is tough for San Antonio to do. So you got to look at that as well. But the other side of it is, of all things, the Spurs don't want him to go to a team of all places in the Western Conference, because that means you could play them up to, if not 4 times per season. So he's gone as far to say that he's willing to sit out this year if nothing happens, and then during the offseason, once free agency comes, we will probably see Kawhi Leonard making verbal appearances. And I say verbal appearances like that because he's really, if you really know and you really look at Kawhi Leonard, he's a very soft-spoken player. But I think he's become more vocal with all that's going on involving the team, that the frustration is starting to come full circle, which is understandable. So I mentioned, so the LeBron story, not as much push behind it, but LeBron is no longer Cav. The Philly story was for show and tell. He really didn't talk to Houston, which I'm not surprised by. And I'm going to explain the Houston bit in a moment, because Houston is very unique for what they did. But LA was the right move. He has a home in LA. His main focus that he's emphasized is it's been about family from day one. So I did have this conversation with some people, some of my social friends, and just general conversation. Now that LeBron is a Laker, how does his retirement process work? We can't deny or ignore the fact that he's going to have a jersey retired in Cleveland. It would make no sense if he did. As far as him getting a jersey in Miami, up for debate, possible, wouldn't be surprised. I mean, he was able to get Miami 2 championships. If he gets a championship in LA, it becomes a very good conversation. Um, some people are saying that he likely will. Some people are saying it's really not a big deal. I know the other side of it is, and people need to acknowledge this. And I know I'm putting people in a universal term, but I'm saying it this way just to kind of flow with the podcast. You have to remember that his legacy is not going to be affected by what has or hasn't happened. And the reason why is because if you're in the likes or in the voices or in the terms of players such as Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, uh, those stars, you're in that your legacy's fine. Didn't matter where he went to. Now, if he went to like a team, say the Kings, it would have been weird. But going to the Lakers, I mean, that's a big franchise. Magic's there. It makes Magic look good. And I think someone even mentioned, I had someone on my Facebook page talk about how this is cementing Magic's legacy. I'm like, I don't really see what more he needs to cement. But okay, I get it. It's a conversation, so I'm here for it. So LeBron goes to LA. Then not too long after, Contavious Caldwell Pope, he gets a 1-year extension with the Lakers. So they're kind of doing year to year with him because they're not sure what they want to do. And everything's about cap space because you also have to remember each year the cap space changes. They picked up Lance Stevenson, which I think was a huge surprise to a lot of people, especially with them having a rivalry that they did. But this was brought up in conversation too, and you have to look at it this way. Think back when Jordan played and Rodman came over to the Bulls. Same thing. It ain't even on the if you can't beat them, join them. It's just, hey, we had our differences, but I'm all for common cause. Even with him on the end of his career, Ron Artest going to LA, big move. Because Ron Artest, whether people want to say it or not, between Ron Artest and T Mac, those were the two players that gave Kobe Bryant the hardest time in his career. If you really go back and look at like late '90s, early 2000s basketball, it's written in black and white. So then you have Lance Stevenson going there. You have JaVale McGee going there for a year. So those are your big stories for LA. Oklahoma City, Carmelo had already did his opt in for his contract. I mean, he was gonna get good money. He got good money. He's not going to turn down good money to go to another team and hope that he gets good money. He was gonna get that money in OKC. OKC can pay it because you really look at it. The money that you're pushing right now is going to Westbrook, Anthony, and Paul George. Steve Adams soon will be up for getting some money, but it depends on how and when his contract comes into play. But OKC, Russell Westbrook had a non-disclosure agreement party, but of course information leaked. Videos were shown. There was a video showing Paul George on stage partying with Russell Westbrook. Nas was performing, and the announcement then came that Paul George would be staying in Oklahoma. So it was kind of like a party to invite the news of him staying. More than likely, him and Westbrook have been talking, but he was the one who was able to get the 4-year. Let me make sure I get the right number. They may not have it on here, but he was able to get like a pretty good contract, 4-year, $137 million deal. So, and I'm gonna say this because I always talk about this with sports and with basketball. Period. Breaking the story is good, but breaking the right story is even better. And I'll just leave it at that. Fast forward, Aaron Gordon Rumors came that he could possibly be going to LA. He ended up re-signing with the Magic. Get your money, bro. Like I ain't mad. Uh, DeAndre Jordan opted out of his deal with the Clippers. We're gonna play this Texas two-step do-si-do rodeo again with the Mavericks. So there's a possibility. So he's gonna be signing a deal with the Mavericks. Kevin Durant signed a 2-year deal with the second year being an option, player option. Chris Paul signed with the Rockets. Gonna talk about it because it still blew my mind. He's getting a 4-year, $160 million deal. Now, I want to make sure that I'm transparent in what I'm about to say because it's very relevant to this podcast. Chris Paul is one of the best point guards in the NBA. Is he the best? Doubtful. But he's in that talk of players that you will always remember when it comes to franchises and basketball between the New Orleans Hornets, the LA Clippers, the possibility of him going to LA to the Lakers at one point and the commissioner nullifying that trade or nullifying that deal. Chris Paul's 33. Now, 33 to an everyday person doesn't sound too old, but in NBA years, he's not declining that much, I will say. He is, if I'm not mistaken, going into his 13th year. Well, he'll be going to his 14th year, I believe, in the NBA. So this is the last run. This is it. Do I think Houston is making the right decision? I don't know. Because the reason I give an I don't know the way I do is because we had to see if Clint and I'm saying we from a Houston fan perspective. Houston has to see if they're gonna get Clint Capella re-signed. Clint Capella is looking at LA as well as Houston. LA will pay him, but it's gonna come down to and this is and I'm exhaling and I'm talking about this because it's so much that happened over these last few days. I'm like, I need to get on this mic and talk about this because I don't want it to be left unsaid. LeBron is going to LA to help them possibly win a championship or to get them out of the barrel. These guys are about to get a whole new style of play of basketball. And this is why I say that. Kobe, Kobe was a pusher. If you know basketball and you understood Kobe was a pusher. That's why him and Shaq collided, but were on the same page when it mattered. That being said, I feel like LeBron is a demanding player. I'm just going to say it because it's important to look at. And when I say demanding, I don't say demanding as if he's going to be aggressive and extracurricular in what he's looking for. He's just about business. The guys who are on the Lakers, a lot of them are young. A lot of them are not going to be ready for that. I'm saying this now. I've said this on numerous social media posts. No one's going to like me for saying it, but it has to be acknowledged. Isaiah Thomas will not be with the Lakers at the start of the season. Mark my words. And I think ESPN I think it's a not ESPN social media page, showed something that really put this all into perspective, which I really was surprised by and I completely forgot about until it just came full circle. There was a draft back in 2003. It's one of the best drafts. LeBron was picked first in that draft. Carmelo was in that draft. Darko Milicic, unfortunately, was in that draft as well. The number 32 pick in that draft is Luke Walton, son of Bill Walton. If you want to take a wild guess as who the LA Lakers coach is, it was the number 32 pick. So just let it all marinate and sink in for a second and be a full circle of a discussion. Trevor Ariza did go to Phoenix. He was looking to get more money, and he's made his run now is just him playing to play. Like he doesn't really have he can be about improving something if he wants to, but in the same token, he's now coming at that veteran stage of the NBA, and also there's the factor of where he goes or how he plays is going to be beneficial because I mean he already has a championship. So now for him playing, it's I'm here to just kind of guide. Like you're going into a team with Trevor Booker, Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, Josh Jackson. You have quite a young cast. Devin Booker was a little upset that Tyler Ulis got let go. They were very guard oriented though. And it was evident when the Eric Bledsoe trade happened, even though the Bledsoe trade was going to happen regardless, because Bledsoe was not pleased in Phoenix because they weren't winning. When teams win, people don't want to go anywhere. A lot of times players go where they're choosing to go for the benefit of the sport. Cousins, as I mentioned, I haven't mentioned yet. DeMarcus Cousins is looking to meet with the Pelicans as well as the Lakers. He could go to the Lakers. I'm still throwing my wild card as people may not want to hear this or think about it. He could go to Washington if him and John Wall get together. Watch out, especially with them releasing Gortat. Trying to think what else. Butler is looking to sign an extension. The story is not full circle yet because they have to kind of make sure everything's in place. But it looks like Noah and Luol Deng are looking to try to go to Minnesota. I don't know what, I guess Minnesota's trying to reform what they had in Chicago. I don't know. All right, so to wrap up everything regarding the actual free agency pool of madness, a lot of players went to different teams. Everyone is kind of securing their spots for what's coming. And as an added bonus, and a lot of people may not even realize this, today is actually day one of the infamous Summer League. So if you're a fan and want to see who's new and who's doing what, then you can definitely check that out. Probably gonna miss this video. Yep, I'm fine. I'm not gonna waste my time. All right. So now we're gonna switch stages a little to the JBA or Junior Basketball Association. Yes, they got 2 weeks straight. And there's more to kind of unravel with this league a little bit. They're slowly, as I view the page and as I work with looking at the information, I've noticed a trend. So I'm gonna retract some statements, but I'm also gonna be a podcaster and a media person. I did make some references and some remarks about the page being difficult and hard to access information. I was right, but I was wrong. I was right because looking at the page, if you go to schedule and you go to a team schedule, you see the scores in opposite order, but this information isn't updated there. But I'm wrong because if you're on the home page, it actually shows what's called live stats. And it turns out that LeVar is close, but not quite on his wedge and his buffer. And I'm going to go into this very directly and undelicately. So on the page, it has all of the scores in order from each game that's been played. At the bottom of the page where it shows live stats. When you go to let's say you click on a score, like I'm going to the first game when New York played LA. It'll show the box score and it has all the information, how many points they scored, rebounds, assists. Like it breaks down a pretty good statistical running for each team. Now, The page that I'm on probably not gonna be on here. Well, yeah, okay, box score. So yeah, you go to it, and then if you go to box score breaks down pretty much everything you need, like points, rebounds, assists, turnovers, steals, blocks, personal fouls, plus minus. Plus minus is something that I'm always embracing of seeing on a site. So I see that information, all of that set up. It's all broken down pretty well. And then at the bottom, and it's in the address bar of the page, it's through FIBA, which is which if any of you may or may not know, for the world. So for soccer, there's FIFA for football, and then there's FIBA for basketball. So all of your teams that are in the World Cup for basketball, they handle it's all handled through FIBA. So FIBA is a good source to have this information. But the reason he has it tied into that site was because if you go back and remember, his sons Leangelo and Lamelo were both in the Lithuania League, which is affiliated with FIBA. Now this is first year, so I'm giving the first year pass the benefit of the doubt. So all of that, everything that I'm saying to you now is just me general rambling on that in that sidebar. What I will say and what I feel is my roommate and I have talked about this a lot, and it's a fun conversation because it's something that I think needs to be addressed and needs to be looked at. If the purpose of your league is to give a player that income or some funds while they're, in between high school and possibly trying to go pro, there should be a relationship with that pro affiliate. The pro affiliate in this case would be the NBA. Now, if you have an affiliate with FIBA, that's fine too. FIBA is a great resource. I'm not going to downplay FIBA because a lot of players who play basketball, I have a guy who I went to school with. His overseas career is ridiculous. I mean, he's been doing his thing. So it's there and it's available. And I'm not taking anything away from that whatsoever. But you have to use your resources. And if you have the opportunity to build that connection with the NBA, why not do it? A point to add, and I don't want to keep going back to the LeBron situation, but not the situation, but the LeBron trade. Not the LeBron trade. The LeBron free agent acquisition. There we go. Third time's a charm. That's important. A player who can benefit from this the most is Lonzo Ball. The reason why is because it gives him not only a mentor to look up to for the game, because when LA played against Cleveland and he played, after the game they were both given information, and I think that was when we started to see more teams and athletes do that, where they would talk, but they didn't want the media to see what they were talking about. So they did let me put my shirt over my face and I'm going to talk to you like this. You can hear what I'm saying. They can't hear what I'm saying because they can't read my lips. And they talk that way. Now, if it was a microphone nearby to pick it up, that would have been different, but whatever. It's all irrelevant. I'm just sharing all that to say it as, if you're going to get information or get resources, get it from one of the best players in the NBA or best players in the game. Especially if they're willing to provide that. As an update in World Cup, Neymar just scored again, so they're ahead 2-0. Today has been a day, I tell you. So yeah, so going back to the JBA, I feel like that tie or that wedge between the NBA and the JBA could be very key, because it could be some tips that he could get. Like I'm not knocking his league for having 8 players. I feel like he should have more players on his team, only because Not even on the basis of what may or may not happen to a player as far as injury, but it's beneficial to have that availability. Now, if it's the only flip side to that is if you can't afford to pay 10 players on a team, okay, I get it. But league's been going on for what we had 2 weeks, almost 2 weeks, and haven't seen a jersey. Excuse me, I haven't seen a physical jersey on a website. Now, if the jerseys are being sold at the games, that's different. But if I wanted to buy one online, it's not a big baller brand. But yeah, they have the scores on the JBA site. I'm not gonna break all of them down because there's so many games that have come and gone. What I'll be probably doing is near the end of the season, break down like stats as far as what records are, if I can see what the records are, and get that to you all. Because I don't want to say this is the last time I'm going to talk about it, but this is kind of going to be like my supposed hurrah of discussion related to it. Um, so sticking with basketball, and I will admit, it felt good watching the games compared to normally I'm talking about it, but I caught these games or caught a couple of the games. But the big three did have their previous week of basketball, and it gave me a different eyesight to a lot of things with the league. And it's not well. Let me backpedal. I ain't gonna say it's a lot like over exaggerating. It showed a lot of things to me that I'll be looking forward to. The Killer Threes were able to beat the Ghost Ballers 50-44. Killer Threes have Steven Jackson. So if you may or may not remember last year, Steven Jackson and Charles Oakley were kind of like the alpha male and dog, and trying to, give the knowledge to the young old school meeting older school in a sense. Um, Tri-State beat the Ball Hogs. Tri-State was the team who beat Trilogy last week. The Ball Hogs struggling once again. Tri-State is going to be the team to watch out for, because I think Nate Robinson is coming in with a different energy from last year. Don't get me wrong, Trilogy was a great team. Trilogy just played the game simple. They bully. It was bully ball, but it was also, we're just going to do what we do and let's play basketball. But Tri-State is a little bit more energetic. You can tell between having, like, you're looking at it. You have Nate Robinson, who still go back to the NBA. You have Amari Stoudemire, who still go back to the NBA. So those two players alone bring you a lot of energy. So then we go to Three's Company and Power. Power still is undefeated as well. They won against Three's Company 50-44. And in the final matchup, which I think a lot of people wanted to see, the Three-Headed Monsters, who were the runner-up in the championship game, defeated Trilogy, which puts Trilogy at 0-2. And that's big right now, because you don't want to continue games and you get down to like near the end of the season and you have a losing record. Doesn't look good. So Trilogy lost. And why this was why I'm gonna talk about this game but not be too long-winded, because I've talked enough about everything else. Al Harrington was back for this game. The lineup that Trilogy has is a very big lineup. The Three-Headed Monsters have a pretty big lineup, but Mahmoud Abdul Rauf was kind of exposed, not in a bad way. Just as far as comparing Dion Glover, I think that's his name, Glover to Rauf. Glover's a much bigger player. So between Glover, McCants, who's their guard, Al Harrington, Kenya Martin, can't think of who else they had. But with those guys, I mean, you're running that type of a lineup. They were going to the block every time. Reggie Evans, and it's an interesting lineup with the Three-Headed Monsters, because let's face it, Rashad Lewis is not a physical player. And he's not a physical player for whatever reason. He just him being physical isn't something that he has to do. He more so plays to his advantage, which his advantage he knows is spotting up from anywhere on the floor, not just at the 3-point line. So he was able to keep the game, that gap between the game. Al Harrington played very frustrated. He was playing through his injury. He wasn't 100%. You could tell. Kenyon Martin was a factor, but not a huge factor. McCants left the game early, so that was something to kind of keep an eye on. Reggie Evans was able to kind of give the gift and the curse to three-headed monsters, and here's why. He was bringing the gift as far as getting in Al Harrington's head. He was a curse because he missed a lot of shots. And there were a lot of key shots that if the game didn't have as large of a gap as it did, it could have cost them the game. And I say this each week. I love watching power play because Cuttino Mobley is like close to 50 and balling like he's still in his 20s. He literally looks like he's playing back when he was in Houston when him and Steve Francis was together. So that's kind of our overall rundown of the big three. Just to kind of give you an overview. Currently, there are 3 teams that are undefeated. That is Power, Three-Headed Monsters, and Tri-State. The 3 teams that are kind of on the outside that need to get some wins: Trilogy, Ball Hogs, and Ghost Ballers. So, as we always like to hear it be said, step it up. So this is the stage of the podcast where we'll kind of spin into the stuff a little bit, but we're gonna have a very relaxing stuff based conversation today, and I'll explain why in a moment. So the first story, and what I'm gonna be doing with these is super simple. Give you the top 3, and we're gonna go to the next event. Let me make sure because some of them they don't give you those. So the first event was Smash Brothers for Wii U. MK Leo was the winner of that. Second place was Tweak, and third was Cosmos. Now before I continue with this, I do want to make everyone aware there were a lot of events at CEO. CEO, from those who may or may not know, is kind of like that gap or that bridge between fighting, as in like wrestling, and also video games. This year they really used it because they were able to actually have like a wrestling match occur on Friday night, which was good. It got those who are wrestling fans loved every bit of that. So that was very resourceful to have. Going into Dragon Ball FighterZ, Kazunoko was first, Geo1 was second, and Fenriddy was third. Sonic Fox shockingly came in fifth. So that was kind of I won't say a letdown, but it was a bit unexpected for the event. Street Fighter V, Fujimaru came in first, Zhao Hai was second, and Phenom was third. Jian came in fifth, Knuckledu was tied for seventh, Infiltration tied for fifth. Punk had a tough run. He ran into some big names early on. I believe it was Mina RD and Problem X, which both of them came in tied for 17th, as well as Smug. Melee, Hungry Box was first. Plup was second, and Mewtwo King was third. Now, I'm going to, and I noticed it this year, so I'm going to go ahead and say this so people can be prepared. Melee will be at events, but Melee won't get heavy attention soon. And the reason why is because it'll kind of become a shifting of the guards. If you look at it when Project M got its attention. After a while, Project M kind of disappeared, and Melee stayed around. When Smash Ultimate comes out, it's going to be Smash Ultimate, and you'll have Smash 4. I feel like Melee will still be at events, but it's just, I won't say it's phasing out. You just kind of can tell like it's that changing of guards a little bit. Tekken 7, Gion D Ding was first. Q-Dans was second, and JDCR was third. And if I'm not mistaken, JDCR is with Echo Fox. They did do Injustice, so I won't really get into that. Guilty Gear was there. I feel like I'm slow because I should know what UNIST is, but I can't think of it offhand. Let's see. There were a couple more events because they did do. Now this event was the first event that you got to kind of see. Oh, how could I forget? This is why I'm really talking about this. So they showed various streams for CEO on Twitch. One of the streams that they showed was for Dance Dance Revolution Extreme Pro. Now, many of you may be too young to understand Dance Dance Revolution, but I'm going to tell you in my nicest and most honest way possible. Growing up, I think I almost want to say not too long after I got out of high school, I was a DDR fanatic, but I played DDR at home. I couldn't do DDR in public. It was a mixture of doing DDR in public and me feeling weird holding a bar that was behind me. But now that I watch people play DDR, I understand why the bar is behind them and not in front of them for safety purposes. Let's see. But yeah, DDR was played. But the reason I shared that story is because they showed a stream for DDR, and there were about a little under 100 people who were watching. And it was literally, you just saw feet. All you saw was the feet of the players who were participating, the score of what they were getting, and the actual game itself being played. And I was literally in shock because I had not seen that game in such a long time as far as in that environment. So it was fun. It was like a true nostalgic moment, but it's a game that as I was able to learn, gets quite a fair share of love and attention. Super Turbo was played. That was one of the Street Fighter 30th anniversary games that came out. And I want to say this because I don't believe I did yet. 30th anniversary generates more people coming to events because there are a lot of people who are not the greatest at Street Fighter 5. There are not many people who are great at Street Fighter 4. But they may be a monster at those classic Street Fighter games. And those games are the ones that can get people to break the ice and kind of come out of their comfort zone a little bit. So in that regard, I have no problem with that transition. But Anuki came in first, Damdai came in second, and Afro Legends came in third for Super Turbo. So Super Turbo, if you may or may not remember, was Street Fighter 2. And I did get a very nerdy / gaming lesson as I share this with people all the time as to why no one ever talks about Street Fighter 1. Killer Instinct was there, In the Groove 2 was there, Pump It Up Prime 2 was there, King of Fighters was played, Capcom versus SNK 2, and a new game that just released was Fighting EX Layer, which was a side tournament. They had Virtua 5 there. Now before I go into the next story, because I don't want to. There's so much to talk about. Like I told y'all, this week was gonna be that story where it's like, all right, I would try to get everything as best as I can, but I was gonna have fun with it as I could. Let's see, how can I put this? Virtua Fighter 5 and Dead or Alive 5 are two games that were fighting games that didn't get a lot of backing. But if you talk about fighting games, you can't leave those games out of the equation. Like it's humanly impossible. Uh, and I'm the first to admit I didn't. And I was telling someone this the other day. A lot of games that came out as far as fighting games, me coming up as a kid, I didn't play them younger because I was the sports and puzzle guy. So now watching them now and learning it and getting into it, it's fun and it's different. But it's not that hard, but it is hard if you're trying to break the learning curve of those who've been playing it for as long as you were younger. So I do like watching it and I enjoy it, and I feel like it's those older games are gonna always have a pulse because there are still people who do like playing those games, i.e., myself. All right, so GTA Online was able to break a big story, and they broke it very cordially, and I believe it's supposed to be coming out um, this week. They haven't. I don't think they gave a. Um, well, I'm sorry. Let me rephrase it. They haven't given an exact date as of yet, but GTA Online is going to be introducing what's called nightclubs in Los Santos. Um, it's going to allow players to manage staff, arrange music for personal clubs. It'll highlight a new aspect of crime, trying to run a legitimate business. The nightlife scene will get an upgrade that allows players to manage their own nightclub. While a full range of features are unclear, Rockstar did confirm that you'll be able to run your club from setup, design, staffing, and promotion. There will also be financial rewards. Successfully managed business will bring in more profits, and there seems to be options to launder funds from illegal operations as well. So it's as we like to call it, Rockstar going above and beyond, and taking adjusting to the curve. We're a few months away from um, Red Dead Redemption 2. If I remember correctly, I believe it's supposed to drop in October. I might be wrong, but I know it's supposed to be sometime this year. If not this year, next year, with Rockstar, they can always give you information but not tell you anything. But then when it releases or it's close to release, it's going to sell. And in the meantime, people are still, I myself, I love GTA Online. I just haven't played as much because it's a matter of getting on with the right crew, getting on with people, and not having to deal with the possibility of everybody trying to kill you the whole game. So those factors kind of delayed my run-ins with GTA. But GTA is always in that flow of these are games that I will never get tired of playing. So if you own GTA and you are playing GTA Online, prepare for those nightclub presentations to come soon. So this is I don't want to say a 2% story, but this is a story that has always come to light, but it's a matter of we got to see it to believe it. The International Olympic Committee of the IOC and the Global Association of International Sports Federations are hosting a forum. And it's not just any forum, but it's going to be a forum to discuss the topic of esports, to possibly get sport and esports worlds combined. It sounds like a lot of marketing speak, but the options and the thought is with anything to possibly bring in more money. Don't tell me I lost the article that quick. Oh, I just can't win for losing. My bad, y'all. If you have hung around this long, I do love y'all dearly. Um, the event will take place on July 21st in Lausanne. It'll offer a series of talks and panels about how esports and the Olympics can work together. It includes talks on Twitch's success, pushes for gender equality, the lives of elite players, and governance structures. Since the IOC has already said it's open and welcoming digital athletics into the tent, hopefully the idea of an esports Olympics isn't such a fanciful notion. After all, the 2022 Asian Games has already made room for an esports competition as a medal event. So I'm going to add to this a little bit because you can get things like these to work as long as people really open their mind and look at it as, hey, there's much more to it than you think. And I forgot a story. I feel bad. Okay, I'll throw that story in. I love when I miss stuff, but it was missed accidentally. But it'll work. Um, this move is one of those, just a matter of when and how it gets done. Doing this will be a transition across the board, and the reason why is because they have esports. Esports is very new, but esports is very scary to a lot of people because it's like everyone's trying to see what's in it to do it, when in reality it's there to be done. It's just a matter of being willing to take that risk or take the chance. I personally believe that over time this is going to be a merge that's going to really help out for both ends, because right now, if you really look at it, even with the World Cup right now, a lot of streamers who play FIFA are utilizing Twitch's platform to talk about the World Cup. They don't have to play FIFA all the time. And if you get a couple, every 4 years or every 2 years, because you have women and then men, it's a good conversation piece. Because I know in 2016 was kind of, so to kind of give a soccer background and tie it in esports a little bit. 2014, USA didn't talk about soccer. We got into it a little bit because USA was in it, but then once USA got knocked out, we didn't think about it. 2016 came, you have USA women I don't think they lost a game. They may have lost like one game, if any, and it was becoming a big thing. So 2018, we were hoping that USA would get in. USA doesn't get in, but everyone's cheering and they're enjoying soccer. Tying it into esports, esports is the thing that everyone's not getting into it now because they don't really know much about it. As they see that it's a wave and it's not as bad as it looks, people will give it a chance. Fortnite is still making waves that people still aren't prepared for, even in beta. So it's the same thing with it being blended or implemented from an Olympic standpoint. Only thing I hope is they get the doping madness under control, because I mean in the Olympics it's gotten much better. It's still, people still do what they want to do and get in trouble, but in esports that's been a big issue as far as enhancements. Well, not just enhancements per se, but just people taking different types of medicines and things to stay awake and play games for long periods of time. So that's something that the Olympic Committee has to look at, and also the gaming committee has to think of as well. Corsair and Elgato did the unthinkable. Corsair has decided to buy Elgato's business for the benefit of live streaming. So Corsair, if any of you may or may not know, Corsair makes a lot of your top hardware products for computers. Mice, keyboards, desktops, laptops. They do quite a bit when it comes to computers. Elgato, on the other hand, is all of the streaming equipment you need to be a streamer. So if you need to get a green screen, if you need to get a capture card, Stream Deck. I've been patient because it's on my to-do list, but I want to get a Stream Deck so bad to utilize once I really get to having everything set up for streaming. But it's a one-stop shop, and I mean, to have it working for computer purposes, it's a matchup. It's a good mix. But live game streaming has become a big business. Corsair is wanting in. They do make peripherals. They were able to reach a deal with Elgato Gaming. Uh, so the three big things that Elgato has are the capture cards, the Stream Deck, which I just mentioned, and the green screen. Elgato's smart home business will carry on by itself under the EU systems badge. It's not a surprising move. Corsair is already a fixture in the gaming scene, including among streamers who have already used its mice and mechanical keyboards. This gives a more definitive foothold in that space. You may see that Corsair name plastered everywhere when you're watching your favorite Fortnite or League of Legends player. That in turn might give the company more name recognition on a time at a time when rivals like SteelSeries and scoring are scoring key sponsorships that could threaten Corsair's business. No matter what, it's an acknowledgement that game streaming is quickly becoming the sort of business that you ignore at your own peril. To break this down in a simple manner, Corsair and Elgato need each other because most people are sponsored by Elgato and a lot of people are sponsored by Corsair. So if you're between those two companies, why not have just the best of both worlds? And in that way, when it comes to you doing giveaways or having events to, provide accessories to people who are subscribed to you as a streamer or are following you on Twitch, that gives that streamer an idea of, hey, if I can go to this person's stream and just kind of get a good idea of what I may or may not want to do with streaming, it kind of gets the ball rolling in that regard. Which sometimes what makes or breaks a lot of people in the streaming business is that platform. And I'm going to get into that soon. I've talked about this a little bit on my page, but platforms and having that chance of just getting out there, the exposure is key. And this is a good way to do it if you are able to utilize Elgato. I mean, the only thing that they would be missing, and I doubt this would happen, is if they use Blue microphone. If you get Blue, Elgato, and Corsair on one accord, that's it. Because Corsair has all the peripherals, Elgato has all the streaming equipment, and Blue has your audio. You're good to go. So this move is huge. You're gonna see the changes on both pages where they start talking about where Corsair is gonna talk about Elgato, Elgato's gonna talk about Corsair. So I look forward to it. June 25th. I feel bad because I missed this. June 25th was the NBA Awards, and I was supposed to add this to sports, but I will go ahead and address it now. I will go ahead and do the top and most important story last because it's relevant to this podcast. So the all defensive team was Rudy Gobert, Anthony Davis, Victor Oladipo, Drew Holiday, and Covington. So mostly all your NBA teams, you kind of know who's who. Hustle Award went to Amir Johnson. Best Style went to Russell Westbrook. Handles of the Year was Kyrie Irving. Assist of the Year was LeBron James. Block of the Year was Anthony Davis. Dunker of the Year was Giannis Antetokounmpo. Clutch Shot of the Year was LeBron. The Play of the Year based on the Handler of the Year, Block of the Year, Assist of the Year, Dunk of the Year, and Clutch Shot of the Year. LeBron James was able to win that award. Kevin Durant won the Community Assist Award. Teammate of the Year award went to Jamal Crawford. Lifetime Achievement Award went to the big O, Oscar Robertson. I mean, what is there not to say? Good, there's a multiple list of accolades that could be said for Oscar Robertson. I mean, he was an icon, and without him, a lot of players now wouldn't be able to negotiate a lot of the deals that they have in place to play the game the way they do. The Sager Strong Award went to the Dikembe Mutombo, and he gave a great speech. Sportsmanship Award went to Kemba Walker. Executive of the Year was Houston. Coach of the Year, which was petty and ironic, went to Dwayne Casey. I kind of laughed at that because he got Coach of the Year with the Raptors, but the Raptors had fired him, even though it was based on regular season. So it's tough position to be in. Most improved player went to Victor Oladipo, who gave an actual song. Um, Defensive player of the year went to Rudy Gobert. Six man award went to Lou Williams. So I was glad to see that happen. Rookie of the year, I'm going to say this. Well, Ben Simmons won Rookie of the Year. Donovan Mitchell should have won Rookie of the Year based on how they handled it because of the rule and how it's played out. Ben Simmons won. So I can't knock it. It is what it is. Most valuable player went to James Harden. A lot of conversation came up that felt as though LeBron should have got it. I'm going to talk about both of these, and I'm going to explain just some things you have to accept as being part of reality. Ben Simmons technically was not a rookie, but he was. He didn't play any of his rookie year, so that classified him and gave him the opportunity to be a rookie his second year. It doesn't happen often in the NBA, but when it happens, it is what it is. If Markelle Fultz didn't play any games this year, he could be considered as a rookie for next year, but this upcoming season. But he played, and even if he was to come in and have a good year, it still won't make as big of an impact for him to make. He wouldn't be considered even close to rookie of the year. Now, when you think about this happening, the last time it occurred that I remember was Blake Griffin. Blake Griffin got hurt his rookie year, and he pretty much was considered to be a rookie his following year, which his second year was just explosive. And he ended up winning Rookie of the Year. So that was the only exception. Most valuable player, a lot of people think LeBron should have won. LeBron had a great year. If the NBA really wanted to, they could make LeBron the MVP every year. Harden just had a better year, all around year. LeBron played more games. A lot of statistics played into it. But I also know that the NBA they have to make parity in some manner, and I think that was the only way they could do it. But I mean, it still turned out being and I'm taking nothing away from LeBron, and it's not me putting on a fan head of Houston. It's just basketball being the way it is, and it's also, if you look at history, it was kind of time because Westbrook won it last year, and Harden should have won it. Harden won it this year. LeBron should have won it. So it's likely that depending on how the season goes, LeBron could win it next year. Who knows? So before we get to our ass of the week, I'm going to dive delicately into the music sesh this month. Or not this month, but this past week. I'm going to be upset because I have a feeling I know the answer to this question. But, okay, she didn't. So Tiana Taylor, it was claimed, or it's possibility that she was going to be releasing the remainder of her album. She did not, which is fine. I didn't go in expecting it, so it's no big deal. For my music session this week, it was Drake. I've listened to Drake. You kind of were getting the best of both worlds. I want to say this, and I don't want to get this a lot of attention, but I'm going to talk about it because it's relevant to the music session. You cannot, unless you personally produce music, or unless you know music well enough, you can't place these expectations that are not realistic. Drake boxed himself into a corner with his music this time around because of the story coming out about his son. He spent more time singing about his son than rapping or performing. It was a spin and a blend of him rapping and he had a part rap, part sing, a part song. Everyone made a big fuss because it was like Joe Jackson passed, and rest in peace to Joe Jackson. Condolences to his family. It was him passing, and then all of a sudden Drake comes out with an album that has Michael Jackson as a feature on it. And it's like, it's 2018. We can get music if artists and family and members give permission to do so. voila, here you have it. So there shouldn't have been much of a surprise behind that. Um, Sean Paul brought out a album called Mad Love, the prequel. Pretty good. It was Sean Paul. I'm not. It's not like a. I didn't have a ooh or ah behind it. To go back and to return to the statement, Drake's album is not a high play for me, but it's something I can see me playing once in a while. And that's something that I'm emphasizing with people now when it comes to listening to music. Is you're going to listen to albums or you're going to listen to songs. And some of them you may listen to that album today and may never play it again for another 2 or 3 months. Like today I played Invasion of Privacy. Y'all probably like, who is that? Cardi B's album. Hadn't played in a while. But it's one of those things like you have to play music to your liking and in your zone or in your element. And then two, I know I'm guilty of it. I do a lot of streaming, not radio per se, but I stream playlists that have like a similar flow. So most times I'm usually doing classical, I'm usually doing R&B, I'm usually doing trap. Like it's certain ones that I'm just like I need something to just play, and I don't want to sit here and be trying to set and prepare music all night, all day. Uh, I listened to Casanova's album. It wasn't me. It was not my speed. Those who are into him will probably like his music though. John Coltrane has a new jazz album out as well. Juice World, I did check that out. Didn't realize the first couple of songs were hit singles. Um, I'm gonna say this, and then I'll move forward. If you listen to Scorpion and you listen to the song "Emotionless" and you don't get any feelings or vibes from it, you're not you're not an '80s or a '90s baby. You missed music. Um, I'm just gonna leave it at that because the background voice is key to that song. All right. Now to my favorite part and my challenge of the show, the ass of the week. And this week we have two. One is a shoe in, the other we're going to decipher, but we're going to return to it. First story was local before I continue. Uh, a man was shot trying to break in the home of a mother and her daughter. Uh, Troy Skinner, who's 25, flew to Virginia from New Zealand to meet the woman's teenage daughter after the two had chatted online using Discord, which a lot of you may or may not know. Discord is kind of like the new voice chatting program for gaming. You can use it for other purposes, but for gaming, it's perfect. Like you can literally set it up through your computer, chat, do whatever, and your game doesn't have any battle or effect at all. 14-year-old the 14-year-old girl's mother shot Skinner when he attempted to break into the family home in Holland Hills community. He was not invited here. He was not expected here. He had been told in the past that the daughter no longer wished to communicate with him. The violent encounter took place on Friday when the mother was home with her two daughters. They heard Skinner banging on the door with a brick. When the mother called her husband, he told her to grab a gun. When Skinner threw a landscaping stone through the glass door, the teenage girl's mother fired twice, hitting Skinner once in the neck. He was taken to the hospital and is expected to survive. Skinner's longtime friend describes his gaming buddy as an antisocial loner who was not a family man. His friend, he gave a paraphrase. Not many people know him that well. He's got a really narrow group of people who know him. He didn't have a wide social circle whatsoever. There's a group of 7 people who have known him for a long time and chat with him daily on or semi-regular basis on game-related stuff. His friend said he knew Skinner was traveling to the U.S., but thought he was headed to the West Coast for a visit with friends before pursuing his studies in law at the University of Auckland. All right, so I'm not going to read the story A to Z. I'm just going to kind of tell you what happened. He played it as if he was coming for one purpose, but the process he went about to get flights and take trips to get here, it was already clear he was coming with a plan. And the issue in the conflict was once someone had your contact or way to get to your location, I'm not gonna say you're screwed, but the potential of feeling screwed comes into play. I don't understand why people don't get no means no. You were 25 years old, this girl's 14. What were you gonna come do? What were you really supposed to come and do? And if she's already agreed and consented and saying, no, I'm not interested, walk away or go there. Like, people need to understand there are so many folks in the world who are single. Go find those people who are single and see if they're interested and shoot your shot at them. But don't give all your energy to someone who is not of interest, let alone not of age range or window or whatever. Like, it just didn't come together right with what he was doing. Um, so likely once this is all done, I feel they'll probably have charges pressed. He'll have charges pressed. She'll have charges pressed, and all that type of stuff, and it'll all get handled in court. Not sure if the story circulates again. As I always share all the time, if stories circulate and it happens to hit my feed or timeline, you all will definitely get dibs on hearing that from me. Our second and most intriguing ass of the week. Now, I've watched videos and I've kind of logged and tracked this story well enough to have a full look at the full piece and give my take on it from the other side of the country. To give you a very summarized story, Tana Mungo, who was a big YouTube star, was upset that VidCon did not allow her to be a featured creator or give her a featured creator badge to get extra access to the meet and greet for fans. So she decided to take it in her own hands and host an event called TanaCon. There's one problem. She's never hosted an event before as far as from ground up. We just talked about it a couple of stories back. CEO is handled by Jabali. I can't think of his first name, but Jabali is the own. He runs the event, but he's not the person that's doing everything. He has people who are helping him, and they organize this event from start to finish as far as setting up everything. She had help. Let me go back. Let me phrase that. She had the idea of doing this event, but did not expect it to get the traction or attention that it got. She got in over her head. I'm not sure if I've talked about this on the podcast, but I've talked about this in just general conversation with people. The worst thing you can do when something occurs, an activity, whatever the case may be, is exaggerate. You do not need to tell people that 100 people, that you're at a party with 300 people and it's only 10 people there. She presented this event or the venue of saying it as if there were 15,000 people at this event. Almost 20,000. When you look at the videos and you look at the pictures, as far as inside the actual hotel, the capacity was 1,000. 1,000. Outside of the hotel, there was about 3,000, 4,000 people. If you look at pictures and how everybody was standing around. So 1,000 to 5,000 versus 20,000 is a big difference. One, I looked at a streamer or a YouTube personality who did a video at VidCon, and they walked out on stage just to say hi, and you just could look through the crowd. Looking through the crowd, I could see, I could see 20,000 people because it was a lot of people. Like it was going side to side and back. It was people, and I'm not exaggerating when I say that because it also comes down to the location of the venue. Like even at sporting events, if you look at an actual arena or stadium, the amount of people that are there. So that's one part. The other part of it is she got in over her head because the person who she was doing a promotion with, what she wanted done and what ended up happening didn't meet eye to eye. The guy who she worked with, he was with Good Times, something like that. He was coming in with them, like each person was. The initial impression was everybody who attended the event was going to be there. They didn't have to pay. If they wanted like a special VIP, they would pay this extra money and they would get this bag with these nice things. Creating goodie bags in 2 weeks is humanly impossible. You can order stuff from eBay in bulk. Unless it's coming from the US, you're not going to get it in 2 weeks. In time for this event, rather, to have the bags, have them all prepared, and have them all ready to go. The other factor of this was you're at the clips and the peak of summertime. California, summertime, hot, dehydration. I could go on and on. But all of these things were done, and to make a long story less longer, she was trying everything she could to make everything right, and it was just unachievable because the promoter who was involved with it, he got what he got done, and he left. He was gone. They never really communicated and really came to a consensus on what happened. There were a lot of YouTubers who were supposed to be featured guests who were going to help in showing up, but there was no event. A lot of people who paid for tickets or paid for flights to come to this event were expecting to see these things that they did not see. I go back to what I said before, and this is why it's the ass of the week. You can sometimes get in over your head with something and not know it. I give this example, and I'm going to wrap it up as cordially as I can. Well, I'm gonna give this example, then I'm gonna kind of give a brief aftermath of some information that I've been keeping up with this story. I might have been 11 or 12 years old. I don't remember. I was a kid. And I hosted or organized my first video game tournament. Now, the place that I had the tournament at was where I volunteered. I'm not doing, I don't do names, but it's the place where I volunteer. Now, I'm giving this example and explaining it because I didn't get in over my head. I had one TV, one console, 2 controllers, and I had my tournament bracket. Now, we're in 2018. Obviously, I could have set up more stations. Even at that age, it was doable. Set up more stations. May have had to be a little older. Because now we have challenge, or we have different sites that you can go to do tournament brackets, and it'll keep everything for you without having folks look all confused and distorted. Point being, even with it being as simple as I had it done, it still came together and it worked out good. Now, I didn't have any prizes. That was a little, hit on my part, but hey, It was something to do, something to have fun with the kids and everybody who I was kind of cool with at the time. But for this, I think she did not know how many people were going to show up to this event. And when they showed up, it went out of hand. She's working with one of the big streamers who his article is in the show, will be in the show notes as well. And they're kind of working, you can kind of say it's almost like an investigation to try to figure out what happened. What caused things to go awry? And how do we get to this point? And it turns into what he did, and when I say he, I'm not referring to the person who's doing this discussion in the interpreter portion, but the promoter, the YouTuber, and what was supposed to happen, and where things fell apart. I'm gonna say this about that story, and I'm just gonna say this overall. Sometimes you have to know when enough is enough. And the tough part is we sometimes don't know when that enough point is because we just keep going. And we go not looking at what could happen or what's possibly down the line. So this also, and this is tied into what my quote was that I shared, and this is my quote for July. This could be your quote for July, I don't know. Remind others how much you matter to you by giving you and your skills its proper attention. Tying that into this, if you know that you're a great YouTuber, be a great YouTuber. If you know you're a horrible event coordinator, don't coordinate an event. If you're good at a podcast, if you're good with people, then present how you're good with people. If you're going to do something that's your platform or your skill, don't half-ass it. Because if you do, it's going to come back on you. Even if other people may or may not have been involved, it comes back to you. And you have to be able to take that weight on. If you're not open to taking that weight, you've already lost the battle. So that's all I have today. Like I said, dude coming from New Zealand, cornball all the way, because I don't know what he was about to do. Like, it was a good thing that her mom was there, because if not, that could have went way worse. And TanaCon, as of right now, they're saying it's canceled. They're trying to figure out and negotiate on how to get these people money back, or if they're gonna get another venue. If they're smart about it, get a bigger venue. Communicate, negotiate some deals, put something in place, let it all work out. But when money is involved, business has to be done the right way. And I'll just leave it at that. But as always, thank y'all for tuning in. If you are looking to get into podcasting, definitely Spreaker.com is the way to go. Subscribe if you have not done so already. If you go to passpodcast.com, I do have at the bottom of the page, it's a button. Just hit that button. It'll take you to iTunes. If you don't have Apple Music or don't have Apple Podcasts, that's okay. I think it's Podcast Addict. Yes, Podcast Addict on Android. You can subscribe to the shows and get the weekly episodes sent to your phone. I'm gonna make sure y'all know what time it is, because I'm not holding these shows anymore. Everything for me now is about better promotion and better pushing, because I feel like that is gonna be what gets us to the next level. And of course, you're hearing this beautiful voice thanks to the Blue Yeti microphone, holding it down. We're almost 2 years in. Can't believe it. But yeah, thank you all as always. Peace, blessings, positive vibes all around. And until next time, Pat signing out. Thanks for tuning in. If you'd like to get any information specifically based on the shows, you can go to Spreaker.com/BriTapePodcast or go to www.passpodcast.com. On both of those options, you do have the information related to what topics were talked about, the timestamps for the episode, as well as the specific links related to that specific story. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time, the Past signing out.
心がするよもっともっと